Population 812, one main street, a diner called Patty's, a hardware store that's been in the Waverly family for 60 years, the kind of town you drive through and almost miss. My name is Cal Briggs, retired school teacher, bad knee, light sleeper, always have been. I moved back at 38 when my mother got sick, and I just stayed. So when the town stopped, I was the only one awake to see it happen. It was October 9th, 3:17 in the morning. I was washing dishes after my mother's birthday dinner when the clock on the kitchen wall, the one with the rooster she'd had since 1987, just stopped. Not winding down, not slowing, stopped. I checked my phone. 3:17. The microwave. 3:17. Then I looked out the window. The whole town was dark. Not power out dark. Something else dark. Like every light in Millhaven had been turned off by the same hand at the same moment. I put on my coat and went outside. Mrs. Hendry's beagle was frozen mid-trot in the middle of the road. Alive, I could see her ribs moving, but her legs were still, like a photograph that forgot to stop being real. Danny Okafor's pickup was frozen mid-turn on the corner, headlights on, engine running. Danny inside, eyes closed, hands on the wheel, breathing, just not there. In the diner window, Mrs. Patty herself, coffee pot in hand, the coffee suspended in a perfect arc in the air, not falling, just hanging. I walked 4 blocks of Main Street and counted 23 people, all frozen, all breathing. And then, at the far end of the street, the church bell rang, low and slow, like a warning. Standing in the church doorway, in a white dress in October, was a woman I had never seen before in my life. She looked at me. She said, "You weren't supposed to be awake." Her name was Edna Marsh, somewhere between 40 and 100, the kind of face that doesn't belong to any particular decade. She told me every town gets a night like this, when something unresolved builds up enough pressure to pull a place out of time. "I'm a listener," she said. "I collect the things people leave unsaid. Tonight, Millhaven has something it needs to finally say." She looked toward the far end of town, toward the old alderman mill, dark and rotting at the edge of the tree line. "The thing Millhaven buried," she said, "in 1962, before you were born. But the town remembers. Towns always remember. That's the problem with burying things. The ground has a very long memory." I knew what she meant. I'd heard the story once from my father, in that half-voice adults use when they're not sure children should hear, but they need to say it anyway. A boy, 14 years old, Thomas Waverly, from the hardware store family, missing in October 1962, found near the mill 3 days later. They called it an accident. They said the creek had been running high, but my father's voice had been wrong when he told it. Too careful, too quiet. I started walking toward the mill. The door was already wide open, like an invitation. I went in, down a staircase along the far wall, into the basement, one large room, low ceiling, dirt floor, a single small window letting in October moonlight, and sitting in the corner, cross-legged, perfectly still, a boy, 14 years old, dark hair, a green canvas jacket with a tear in the left sleeve. His eyes were open, pale silver, too bright for a basement, too bright for a human face. He looked at me, and he said, with the quiet relief of someone who has been waiting a very, very long time, "I knew someone would come down here eventually." His name was Thomas Waverly. He had been 14 years old for 63 years. He told me what happened in October 1962. He'd been at the mill alone, reading a copy of Treasure Island he'd borrowed from the school library. He liked it there after school. Nobody bothered him. 3 men came in. He'd seen something he shouldn't have. A meeting at the creek the week before, things exchanged that weren't talked about in daylight in 1962 West Virginia. They'd found out he was there. Thomas told me this without anger. That was the part that hurt most. No anger, just 63 years of tired. The worst part, he said, isn't what they did. It's that everyone knew. Not the details, but they knew something wasn't right about the creek story, and they chose not to pull that thread. Because the men who came to this mill were men whose names were on buildings in this town. He looked at me with those pale silver eyes. I just need someone to say it out loud, he said. In the real world, in daylight, with names. I've been whispering it in this basement for 63 years and nobody can hear. He told me the names. I told him I would write it all down, document it, make sure it was part of the real record of this town. He looked at me for a long moment, then he smiled. The most heartbreaking smile I've ever seen. The smile of a 14-year-old boy who'd been waiting 63 years for someone to walk down a set of stairs. Thank you, Mr. Briggs, he said. And the moonlight through him got a little brighter, and a little brighter, until the corner was empty. I came upstairs. Edna Marsh was gone. The mill was just an old building. And then, all at once, the town came back. Every clock resumed. The beagle completed her trot. Danny's truck finished its turn. Mrs. Patty's coffee fell into the cup. I went home, I sat at my kitchen table, and I wrote it all down. It took 3 months to verify what I could. I found the case file, closed too quickly. I found Thomas's school picture in a 1962 yearbook, a serious boy in a green canvas jacket. I went to the Waverly family. Robert Waverly, the grandson who runs the hardware store now, listened for 4 hours on a Sunday afternoon. Then he made phone calls. The county acknowledged what happened eventually. They added Thomas's name to the memorial on the courthouse lawn. I still live in Millhaven, and every October 9th I walk to the mill at night. I sit on the steps. I don't go inside. There's nothing inside anymore. But I say his name out loud into the dark. Thomas Waverly, 14 years old, from Millhaven, West Virginia. He loved Treasure Island. Some things need to be said out loud, even after the fact, even after everything, especially after everything.